Folks, 2025 is actually a very scary year. I've been targeted multiple times by various hackers trying to steal my crypto. And this is because, well, obviously, I'm in the crypto industry, so I'm a target. But the problem is this affects everyone because you might just get an email with a little PDF attachment or a photo. And if you accidentally click that PDF, it could lead to a catastrophic loss of cryptocurrencies. All right, that's just a fact. I know this because just 3 weeks ago, one of my colleagues just got hacked. Right, she was actually just talking to a potential partner. She needed to actually talk to different people, and that person told her, "Hey, why don't you download this client? It's much easier for us to chat over this special Zoom-like program." The moment she downloaded that program, she knew something was bad because they ran, and her crypto was gone almost in an instant. And it wasn't just like one crypto. It wasn't just Ethereum. It was her Ethereum, her Bitcoin, her BSC wiped out from her wallet. And that's how scary it is. This is because our computers, as nicey and fancy as they are, as they look pretty cool, but our computers, our phones are not designed to hold cryptocurrencies safely. They're designed to do a lot of functionality, but holding crypto safe, becoming your own bank, that is definitely not what they're designed to do. These are military-grade security. Essentially, even if the hacker convinces you to install some shady software, corrupt your computer, attack every single file, they will not get your crypto from these devices. That's how secure they are because they hold your key, your private key, of the most powerful part of your crypto. They hold this in a very special military-grade chip that is EAL6 certified, essentially meaning that hackers, no matter how they try, no matter what they do, even if they have the physical device themselves, pry it open, they cannot extract the key nor your crypto from one of these devices. So this is actually our 7th year talking about Ledger. So I will give you a brief overview of the history and why you need one of these devices. And honestly, 2025 is a year that you do need one of these. They're a lot easier to use, they're a lot very functional, so there's no excuse to not use them. At the same time, they offer you this insane security, so you won't be crying to me and saying, "Hey, look, Michael, I lost all my crypto." And it does really happen in this space because not only have I seen it, but multiple people have experienced that journey, and I don't want that to happen to you guys. So anyway, stick around to see why you need one of these things and which one to get because there's quite a lot right here. Quite frankly, there are quite a few ledgers, like these Ledger Nanos, which are kind of like the iPods. They have the same functionality, but fewer buttons, and you have to navigate through these two little buttons here. So I'm here through this little window. Or the Ledger Stacks, which is like the Rolls Royce of devices. It's got a 3D curved screen. It's got touch screen. It's got sound. And of course, you can just see durability there as well. But this is like extreme functionality and extreme, actually very, very beautiful as well. So by the end of the video, you figure out which one is the right one for you. Let's get started. So I'm pretty sure you've heard this before, not your keys, not your crypto, or you're your own bank in cryptocurrencies. So that's actually a very scary phrase. I mean, I'm my own bank, that sounds cool at all, but I can send money anywhere around the world. I have full control over my funds. But the problem is I'm solely responsible for the security of my crypto. There's absolutely no one I can call. I actually tried calling the Hong Kong police over here about stolen crypto and help people do that. There's nothing they can do if funds get stolen. This is the scariest part about crypto. Because you're your own bank, you are 100% responsible for your security. And it doesn't sound like the sexiest thing in the world, making sure you're secure. But at the end of the day, it really does pay off. So let's just give an example of how hackers can steal your crypto. So one of the kind of most common ways is when you get an email. You get an email, they say, "Hey, there's an invoice," and it might not even be crypto related. It might just be like, "Oh, here's an Amazon invoice, you'll go check it out. You made a new purchase that, might be suspicious. Check out this invoice." The moment you click on an insecure PDF or something that looks very suspicious, that could lead to a hack on your computer. The problem with these hacks on a computer is that once a hacker breaks through your computer, they get access to every single file. So that includes your MetaMask, your Phantom, your Bitcoin wallet stored on your device. It could be breached. The scary thing that happened with us is that when our colleague got breached, she didn't even enter the password to unlock her wallet. Just somehow the hackers just had full access to her system and just took everything from her like that. So that is what makes it scary, because these devices, computers, they're general purpose devices. They're good for everything. But by being good for everything, they can have vulnerabilities in every single direction. They're attackable in every direction. Devices like this, so they look and function like a separate device. And that's exactly what it is. It's a separate device not connected to your computer. Well, not always connected to a computer, but they have a separate operating system. So they communicate with the device, your computer, for a secure method. But more importantly, there's actually two operating systems in here, which actually makes it extremely secure. What that means is that even if something fishy is going on your computer, they cannot breach through two essentially military-grade walls to have access to your crypto or your private keys. That is exactly what makes this powerful. On top of that, because there's a separate screen, you always know how much crypto you're sending and where you are sending it to. This is extremely important. Sometimes we've seen attacks where they even change on your computer the display of where it's going and the amount. But here, that's not hackable. When you sign a transaction here, when you do something here, it's absolutely crucial. So that's kind of the basics. These devices protect you from every single sort of attack. And what I've seen, and the craziest thing I've seen this before, is that this isn't just for your average crypto enthusiast. Professionals in this industry, funds in this industry, people that hold hundreds of millions of dollars are all using devices like the Ledger to protect their crypto. In fact, I've seen like a whole bucket of them, like because they have people have multiple wallets. I've seen buckets of these hanging out in exchange safes, essentially protecting their funds. And that's how much security that these devices offer. So even if you one random colleague or someone gets hacked, you can sleep with a sound of mind. So that's how it works. Now, the evolution of these devices is quite crazy. So one of these first devices I got was the Ledger Nano S. Right? These devices, they're extremely functional, but of course, there's limitations into how they look and function. So back in the day, like this was like one of our biggest videos. We have 1.5 million views on our Ledger Nano S tutorial, and that was because people needed to protect the crypto, but at the same time, it was relatively hard to use because of the limitations of the screen size here. Because of the limitations of this device, it's very hard to show instructions and guide you through step by step what is happening. So you can actually see, I'm actually really happy to see devices like here where you have a full screen, and not only is that screen like a phone screen, but this is an e-paper screen. And the great thing about e-paper screens, and so this is actually just entered my PIN wrong, and it tells you enter your PIN wrong, you have 2 more tries. So the communication of this is obviously a lot better, and you can see my password, which is great, but obviously you shouldn't show people your password, but this is a demo device, so but you can click through and you can actually show which app you're using. So the functionality of this is greatly improved. So we actually come a long way since the original Nano S that was released in 2016. Here, this is just like, wow, night and day, right? And the evolution of this is that I think the best way to think about it is the security and the functionality relatively similar, but the ease of use, it's like, I think it's like 1,000 times improvement. I'm actually quite impressed because recently switching from something like this to here, big difference, especially if you're one of the daily users of crypto. Like if you want to use it on a daily basis, having a screen, like clicking that to use your Ethereum, much easier than finding the app with 2 buttons. So we actually come a long way. And these devices, honestly, in terms of construction, also came a long way too. I want to point out one of the flaws. I'm not sure if Ledger will mind me saying this, but one of the flaws of these ones is that the screen actually starts wearing out a little bit over time. So I've actually owned around 8 Ledger devices, and around 2 of them, the screen actually started fading a little bit just because of the OLED, and the technology here was just not as robust. Something like this e-paper, these things last a long time, right? They're like essentially paper-like screens. So the functionality and the improvement in quality is very, very noticeable for these years. I mean, it's very clear that after securing more funding, Ledger's spent a lot more in the development of this product. It still looks like a Ledger, right? Like it's still got the DNA of the Ledger, but in terms of functionality, the feel, the touch, everything has been drastically improved here. So yeah, I'm actually pretty impressed that like as someone who's in crypto, going through this space for such a long time, that we have devices that we can show people and be like, yo, you go out and show people like, yo, look what I got. Ooh, check my Ethereum wallet. So yeah, we've come a long way. On top of that, of course, mobile support is a lot better. So you can actually take this away with you and actually use this on the go. Personally, I'm still a little bit old school. I still like to play everything at home in secure environments. But there's a lot of people that I know who has to transfer funds, like large amount of funds, and that really requires a Ledger, and you need to do that on the go. And now because Ledger has the app on both desktop and on mobile, the experience is. For the last topic, you're gonna come here. All right. Lastly, all right. So this is, I sound very positive about Ledger, and it feels like, oh, they're sponsoring me for everything. But let's be honest here. So I've been working with Ledger for a long time. At the end of the day, I actually reapproached Ledger and said this. Look, you guys have the best device, and why don't you sponsor this video? But at the same time, I get to keep everything into my own personal words. Simply said, why Ledger became the best and the most recommended, and in fact, the one that our viewers on every channel pretty much, both Boxmining and AlphaDrop bought the most of, is because of the support for new coins. Simply said, there's no other hardware wallet device that has support for this many coins. Right? There's just no comparison when it comes to using a hardware wallet that is like compatible with everything. So at the end of the day, your choices are relatively simple. Right? You either get a Ledger and just get the best one and get it available, or the best one for you, or you buy another hardware wallet and then eventually buy a Ledger. Because at some point in time, especially if you're dealing with unreleased tokens, especially we hear hot airdrops a lot, and sometimes you just have to interact with testnets, you have to interact with something new. Ledger support always comes first. So eventually, you're always going to get a Ledger. Okay, that's just a fact in crypto, right? So that's why I'm pretty big on this thing. So now there are also 3 devices for Ledger, right? These Ledger Nano S series were like these small ones with the little screens. Then we have the Ledger Flex and the Ledger Stacks. Now, they come from very different price points, right? So this is $79 in the US, this is $249, this is $399. So you might be confused. Which one should you get? Which one's the best? If you've never ever used a wallet, what should you do? Honestly, okay, I'll make an honest opinion here. I'm gonna say I would say for 95% of my viewers here and for people that I know, this one is the best. Honestly, all right? $249 sounds a little bit expensive, but you're using them for a long period of time. Now, in terms of functionality, because there's a screen and because it's a touchscreen, it's a real big game changer when it comes to operating from this. So I found that this was actually a big life-changing moment when I actually used it, and was worth the upgrade. So if you have a Ledger X or a Ledger Nano S, this is the best upgrade you can get. Now, obviously, if you have more funds and you have disposable income, great. This one, the Ledger Stacks, very, very easy to use and very functional. But at the end of the day, I would say for 95% of people here, it's good. So Ledger's nice enough to actually provide and give away a few Ledgers to our audience. To qualify for this, write down in the comment section below how you've been potentially attacked by a cyber attack. Potentially fake emails, fake airdrop links, it could be a fake airdrop claim. Comment down below. Not only will this raise awareness for how potentially you can be vulnerable, you're helping others, but you can also get a chance to win one of these as well. So, yeah, thank you Ledger for sponsoring this video. With that, guys, thank you guys so much for watching our Ledger take on Ledger. It's been a long time. I really want to do more reviews on this. I actually realized I haven't done any reviews on this. I've been using them, but I haven't done reviews on them. So those are coming soon. Check the links on the side if they're already done. And obviously, because there's a giveaway, put some comments down below about how potentially that you have been hacked. We gotta share this with everyone. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. See you next one.